Would you trust family enough to not check your own credit report for a year? I did. And that's how my uncle bought a house, took out 3 credit cards, and racked up enough debt in my name to get me flagged by multiple banks. All while smiling at me over holiday dinners. My name's James. I'm 32, and I've been the responsible one in the family for as long as I can remember. Stable job, no criminal record, paid my bills on time, never asked for help. Meanwhile, my Uncle Mark, my mom's charming little brother, has always coasted on bullshit and borrowed money. He's the type who calls you buddy right before asking for a tiny favor that turns into a disaster. So let's dive into the story. It started with a bounced credit card. Not mine, apparently, except it was mine. A Chase Sapphire card I never applied for, suddenly maxed out with charges from electronic stores, gas stations, and a weird furniture place in Jersey. I thought it was fraud. Turns out I wasn't wrong, just underestimated how close to home it hit. At first, I tried to keep a lid on my reaction, called the bank, froze my actual cards, filed a complaint, but then more letters rolled in. Overdue notices, collection threats, a $15,000 personal loan in my name from some sketchy online lender I'd never heard of. And the worst part? My credit score tanked. I'd worked a decade to build it. I dug deeper, calling every number I could. One bank slipped up and sent a copy of the loan paperwork I had signed. It was my name, my SSN, but the signature? It looked like a drunk raccoon did it with their feet. The address? Mark's. Uncle Mark. I almost laughed when I saw it. Almost. Then I sat in silence for a full hour, just staring at the paper while my blood pressure went to war with my brain. He always joked about how tight we were, about how family sticks together. He used to make little comments at barbecues about how I should share some of my financial luck. I always brushed it off. Hell, I even co-signed a car for him 5 years ago. He defaulted. Mom begged me not to hold it against him. He was going through something. Apparently, what he was going through was my wallet. I didn't storm over right away. I needed to be sure, and I wanted to look him in the eye. So I waited until Sunday dinner. The whole family was there. Sarah, my sister, still playing peacekeeper. Mom, blissfully unaware. And Mark, sitting at the head of the table like he paid for the damn lasagna. He even had the audacity to wear one of my old watches. After dinner, I asked him to step outside. Just us. Mark, I said, trying to keep my tone level. Why the hell is your address on a loan taken out in my name? His face barely moved. Just a twitch at the corner of his mouth. What are you talking about, Jimmy? He asked, like I was accusing him of forgetting to return a borrowed DVD. Not identity theft. I pulled out a copy of the paperwork and handed it over. He gave it a glance and laughed. Laughed. You really think I'd do something like this? He said, then paused and added, even if I did, we're family. You're doing fine. That last part? That broke something in me. He didn't even deny it, not really. Just minimized it. As if draining my name dry was some kind of compliment. I walked away before I did something I couldn't reverse. But when I told Sarah, thinking she'd help me corner him with Mom and get him to confess, she froze, then said, maybe he just needed help. You know how things have been since his divorce. I stared at her like she'd grown a second head. Are you serious right now? He's our uncle. Maybe we can just talk to him before ruining his life with police and lawsuits. Ruining his life. That's what she said. I realized in that moment just how far gone they were. They saw Mark as the messed up uncle, sure, but still part of the family unit. I was the stable one, the one who could afford to take a few hits. They didn't understand this wasn't one favor. This wasn't one missed car payment. This was premeditated, long-term identity theft. A damn con. And he didn't do it because he was desperate. He did it because he could. The more I looked back, the more it made sense. That time he asked for my tax documents to help fix his own. And I sent them, thinking it was harmless. The old utility bill I let him use to prove residency. The spare key to my apartment I forgot he still had. He'd been building this for years. And I'd been too polite, too family first to see it coming. That night, I went home and opened a spreadsheet. I started logging everything. Bank names, account numbers, fake charges, dates. I didn't know where it would lead yet, but I knew one thing. Mark picked the wrong nephew to screw over. I became the kind of guy who talks to himself while staring at spreadsheets. It wasn't a hobby. It was survival. I was living in identity theft hell, and Mark? He was probably sipping coffee in a house he bought with my credit rating. I started digging like a madman. Spent nights combing through every credit report, every digital footprint, every damn purchase I hadn't made. Turns out, Mark had gone full method actor. He didn't just use my name, he became me on paper. He even updated some of the accounts with a burner email that looked like mine but had an extra 1 at the end. Classic idiot move. But the real slap to the face? He had opened 5 different lines of credit under my name. Furniture, electronics, car repairs, and even a weekend stay at a hotel in Atlantic City. Apparently, while I was stuck paying rent and eating leftovers, Mark was out here having a bachelor's party for one. It wasn't just financial ruin. It was personal, too. My landlord started side-eyeing me about a declined rent autopay. My gym pass got flagged. My work laptop was locked out because internal credit checks flagged inconsistencies. That's when things started spiraling at the office. I work in financial compliance. Yes, the irony is painful, and the last thing you want is someone whispering you've got money problems. Especially when Linda, my coworker, pulled me aside with that look. You know, the one. Half concern. Half dash. What the hell is going on with you? You okay? She asked. People are talking. Apparently, Mark was busy again. This time spreading whispers that I had gambling debts, that I'd borrowed money from family and never paid it back. He called my office pretending to be a concerned relative, feeding HR just enough garbage to make them paranoid. I was one HR flag away from being escorted out in shame. That's when I showed Linda the spreadsheet, the evidence, the photos of documents, fake emails, and loan statements. First, she looked skeptical, but then she saw one of the forged signatures. "This is so bad," she whispered. "Then, he used your old address from our onboarding forms. He probably lifted it from your personnel file." Bingo. The trail just got darker. With her help, I started patching the office leaks. She vouched for me, squashed the worst rumors, and even helped me draft a timeline for the internal review team. She didn't have to. But Linda wasn't just a coworker. She was the first person who believed me without needing a guilt trip or family sob story. Meanwhile, I was juggling lawyers and investigators like I was on some courtroom reality show. One afternoon, I finally got a call from a senior fraud investigator at Citizens Bank. I've been hounding them for weeks. He had the voice of someone who was 90% done with his job but still had one foot in the grave of caring. "Mr. Ellis," he said, "we've pulled the original application. It was completed in person at a branch in Newark. I hadn't been to Newark in 3 years. We also matched the signature against DMV records," he continued. "It doesn't align with yours." So finally, someone acknowledged it officially. This wasn't my doing. I wasn't crazy, and Mark had royally screwed up. That gave me traction. I updated the spreadsheet with new contacts, affidavits, and audio from my call with the bank. Then I filed a police report with the local precinct. Not expecting much, honestly. But to my surprise, I got assigned to Detective Harris, who didn't roll his eyes when I explained the situation. "You're not the first guy to get shafted by a relative," he said. "But this is one of the cleaner paper trails I've seen." He was sloppy. Sloppy was putting it mildly. Mark was arrogant. He assumed I'd either never notice or be too spineless to push back. What didn't he count on? I had absolutely nothing to lose by burning his life to the ground. And now, with Linda backing me at work and Detective Harris sniffing around, the game has changed. Mark, of course, tried one last trick. He showed up at my apartment building. I didn't let him in. I watched from the upstairs window as he buzzed my unit 5 times like some deranged doorbell salesman. Eventually, I picked up the intercom. "You need to back the hell off," I said. "I've got enough paperwork to bury you in court." "You do that to your uncle?" he asked, like he was the injured party. "After all I've done for this family?" "Yeah. You mean the unpaid debts and forged documents?" I said. "You built this with your own lies, Mark." He didn't have a comeback. Just stood there, puffing like a pissed-off walrus. "I'm giving you one chance," he said. "Drop this. Let it go. You don't want to start something you can't finish." Too late. I already had. Mark was the kind of guy who confused audacity with intelligence. The minute he realized I wasn't going to shut up and take it, He went into full self-preservation mode. Not by cleaning up his mess, of course, but by trying to torch my life further, like that would somehow make him look less guilty. Phase 1 of Mark's sabotage campaign: personal relationships. He reached out to my girlfriend at the time, well, ex-girlfriend now, claiming I was dragging him through some family dispute over a loan. He framed it like I was just bitter, financially unstable, and desperate for someone to blame. Even sent her fake screenshots of text messages where I was supposedly begging him for money. I found out when she called me crying, asking if I needed help. It wasn't pity that got me. It was the realization that she believed him, even for a second. That hurt more than any dollar amount. Mark also contacted a few mutual friends, painting me as some vindictive freak trying to ruin his life over a misunderstanding. I got vague texts like, "Hey man, hope everything's good. Mark said you guys had some drama." My inbox became a therapy circle I didn't sign up for. At this point, I couldn't even scroll my phone without wondering who else he'd poisoned against me. It got worse when I overheard two coworkers whispering in the break room. One of them was talking about James getting investigated. I walked in mid-sentence and they froze like middle schoolers caught with a cheat sheet. "Something you want to say out loud?" I asked. They pretended to be talking about another James. Yeah, sure. Maybe the other James in financial compliance whose uncle used his identity and now has HR whispering behind his back. I'd be lying if I said it didn't get to me. There were nights when I stared at my ceiling, wondering if maybe Mark was right. Maybe I should just let it go. Maybe fighting back was only making it worse. But then I'd think about the forged documents, the ruined credit, the lies, and the goddamn smugness on his face the last time I saw him. No, he wasn't getting away with this. I doubled down. Linda, bless her sarcastic little soul, was still in my corner. She helped me draft a formal rebuttal letter to HR, complete with timelines, documents, and contact info for Detective Harris and the bank's fraud department. Her note at the bottom of the doc read, "Hope this clears things up, or should I just submit it to Netflix instead?" I needed that laugh more than I realized. HR backed off. Temporarily. The whispers still hovered, but at least they couldn't officially pin anything on me. One of the managers even stopped by and said, "Rough situation. Huh? Keep your head down." Sure, Chad. Because silence fixes identity fraud. Anyway, the final straw came when Mark emailed me a Google document. The title? Family Mediation Agreement. Inside, he laid out his version of a settlement. I drop all legal complaints, and in exchange, he agrees to compensate me $3,000 for emotional inconvenience. $3,000. I laughed so hard I almost passed out. He'd stolen nearly 70 grand worth of value. Loans, purchases, the house, and thought a check that wouldn't cover a used Honda was going to make me bow out? I didn't respond. Instead, I called Detective Harris. "I think he's trying to preempt a lawsuit," I said. "Should I be worried?" "Actually, that helps your case," Harris replied. "Keep everything. Don't respond. Just build your file." So I did. I organized emails, receipts, timelines, even a printed copy of the doc Mark sent, with my favorite sentence highlighted. "Let's resolve this privately before emotions escalate." Translation: before you actually win. By the end of that week, I had a binder thicker than a damn textbook. I brought it to Harris's office and dropped it on his desk with a satisfying thunk. "Guess what else I found?" I said. He listed my social security number as his own in a mortgage application. That's when Harris stopped pretending this was just a paperwork case. "Okay," he said. "Now we're in felony territory." That phrase felt like music. For the first time in months, it wasn't just me and my spreadsheets against the world. Mark was officially on thin ice. When I ran into him outside Sarah's house a few days later, because of course he was still playing the good uncle role, I couldn't help myself. "You feeling the walls closing in yet?" I asked. He gave me this oily smile. "Family fights get messy, but I'm not worried. People forgive, especially blood." "Oh, I'm counting on that," I said. "Right after I bury you in paperwork." His face twitched, just for a second. That flicker of panic? Delicious. He didn't realize it yet. But the next arc wasn't going to be about damage control. It was about destruction. You know, the only thing more satisfying than catching a liar? Catching them with receipts. Legal ones. By this point, I'd stopped looking at Uncle Mark like family. He wasn't Uncle Mark anymore. He was a goddamn con artist squatting in a life he stole, and I wanted it back. Badly. Especially the house. He bought it right after my coma. A 3-bedroom mini-mansion in a cookie-cutter suburb with a massive front porch and way too proud American flag flapping out front. It was supposed to be his fresh start. But it was funded, at least in part, by fraudulent credit lines opened in my name. I found the deed buried in a county records portal one night while rage Googling. The more I read, the weirder it got. For starters, the house wasn't fully paid off. It was under a mortgage split between a private lender and a personal investment group, probably people Mark sweet-talked with fake income docs and bad cologne. The deed was listed solely under his name, but the source of funds clearly had my name on the origination forms. I smelled blood. That weekend, I met with Detective Harris again and showed him the latest paperwork. He raised an eyebrow and said, "If what you're saying holds, you could have grounds to freeze the property until this is sorted out." So, guess what I did? I contacted a lawyer through one of Linda's family friends, a no-nonsense woman named Margot who looked like she'd sued her own father for fun. She read through my binder, then calmly said, "We can file a lease pendens." I blinked. A what? It's a legal notice of a pending lawsuit. It tells the world, hey, this property might not be clean. Basically, it screws up any refinance or sale attempts until a judge sorts out ownership. Oh hell yes. I signed everything she gave me. Within a week, we had the lease pendens filed with the county clerk's office. And just like that, the smug bastard couldn't sell, refinance, or even paint his porch without that red flag haunting the paperwork. Next move, I sent a very polite, very formal letter from Margot's office to Mark. Inside was a copy of the lease pendens notice and a breakdown of the charges being pursued. Identity theft, mortgage fraud, financial impersonation, and property acquisition through criminal means. He didn't respond for 3 days. On day 4, he called my phone at 11 p.m., drunk off his ass and screaming, "You're ruining my King life, James. Over what? Some misunderstanding. This is family." I hit record halfway through his rant. "You forged my signature and used my credit to buy yourself a damn patio grill, Mark. This isn't family. It's grand theft housing. Jesus Christ, it was one house. You think you're some King martyr now? What do you want? An apology?" "No," I said calmly. "I want you to pack your shit." Click. 2 days later, I heard from Sarah. She called from a blocked number. Panicked. "Why are you suing Mark?" "Because he committed fraud. He's freaking out. He said you're trying to get him arrested." "I'm not trying," I said. "I'm succeeding." That conversation didn't go far. She still believed he just borrowed my identity, like it was a pair of jeans he forgot to return. She told me to think about how this would tear the family apart, as if I were the one doing the tearing. Meanwhile, I had a job to do. With Harris's help, we issued a formal request for a forensic audit on the accounts used in the mortgage. When the lender saw the fraud claim, backed by law enforcement, a pending civil case, and my spotless financial history pre-uncle, they panicked. Turns out, their underwriting process was a hot mess, and they wanted nothing to do with a court case. They started cooperating, fast. They even froze Mark's account with them and flagged the mortgage as contested, which meant no more payments could be made. No refis, no loan juggling. The house was now a slow-motion car crash, and Mark was in the driver's seat with no brakes. He tried calling me again. This time sober. This time is quiet. "James, let's talk. Please." I didn't answer. I let Margot handle the negotiations. She offered a settlement option. Mark signs over the house, and in exchange, I dropped the pending civil case. Criminal charges, unfortunately for him, weren't mine to drop. He didn't respond to that either, until a week later, when a sheriff's deputy served him a subpoena at his front door. And oh, would you look at that, someone filmed it. The Ring camera footage was posted by one of his nosy neighbors in the local Facebook group. Caption: "Drama on Elm Street." I watched it 3 times. Mark stood there in a wrinkled polo shirt, eyes wide, mouth hanging open. The deputy handed him the envelope, nodded, and walked off like it was just another Tuesday. And me? I was sitting on my couch, sipping wine, watching karma unfold in 1080p. By the end of that month, a judge ordered a temporary transfer of ownership pending a full review. Since the house had been funded with stolen identity credentials and multiple fraud flags were confirmed, the court moved quickly. I got the keys the following week. No ceremony, no ribbon cutting, just a dull envelope with my name on it, and inside, access codes, a garage remote, and a note from Margot that said, "Make sure the locks get changed." Oh, I did. And as I walked through my house that first time, I took in the tacky furniture, the gaudy gold mirror in the hallway, and the half-burnt candle that smelled like fake pine. There was a sticky note on the fridge that read, "Buy more eggs." I left it there, a reminder of how temporary fraud is. Mark tried calling one last time, this time from a number I didn't recognize. He left a voicemail that started out angry, then pathetic. "I just wanted a fresh start, man. I didn't mean to screw you over. You always had more than I." Yeah, I had more. I had integrity. Now I had the house too. Owning the house didn't feel like winning. Not right away. Felt like inheriting a crime scene. The floors creaked like they were ashamed. The living room still smelled like Mark's cheap cologne and worse decisions. The neighbors gave me the kind of looks you reserve for people who just moved in after a public execution. Because, yeah, word had gotten out. Apparently, once the sheriff showed up and legal notices hit the mailbox, Mark stopped pretending to be the charming uncle with a little bad luck. He started blaming me publicly, claimed I snaked him out of his home, said I weaponized the courts against my own blood, and somehow people started buying it. My cousin posted a passive-aggressive quote on Facebook, "Family should never be your enemy." No tags, but I wasn't stupid. Another relative commented, "Wow, I'd never sue my uncle over a little debt. A little debt. 70 grand and a hijacked identity." Even Sarah finally snapped. She showed up unannounced, parked in the driveway like she still owned part of my life, and stormed into the house. "You really took it," she said. "You actually went through with this." "He forged my name, Sarah," I said. What was I supposed to do? Hug him? She looked around like she didn't recognize the place, even though she'd been here before when Mark was playing fake homeowner. "He's broken, James. You didn't have to destroy him." I almost laughed. "He broke me first. You just didn't notice." She didn't stay long. Left in a flurry of judgment and bad takes, but not before saying, "You used to care about family." I still did. That's why it all hurt so much. But whatever family loyalty I had left was buried under credit reports and court filings. Then came the cherry on top. A local gossip blog picked up the story. You know the type? Low-budget screenshots, blurry photos, dramatic headlines like, "Nephew takes down uncle in shocking home seizure." They even got their hands on court records. Mark's mug was plastered on a poorly cropped header with the word "scandal" in bold red text. Mark's reputation? Burned to the ground. He became a punchline in the neighborhood. Rumor had it he was crashing with some ex-girlfriend 3 towns over, begging for rides and favors. The same man who once called me tight with money now couldn't afford a microwave dinner. And me? I stayed quiet. No interviews, no tell-all posts. I just lived in the house, fixed the locks, patched the walls, and repainted the office Mark had turned into a fake home gym. Bit by bit, I erased his presence. But here's the twist nobody expected. Taking back what he stole didn't give me closure. It gave me perspective. Because even after all the court victories and paperwork wins, I still had a family that looked at me like the villain. I still had coworkers who whispered, "Damn, that's the guy with the fraud uncle." I still had to rebuild my credit 1 month at a time. And every now and then, when I'd open a new envelope or get a random call from a collection agency that hadn't updated their database, I'd be reminded. The damage Mark did wasn't just financial. It was personal. But I wasn't broken. Not anymore. One day, I ran into Detective Harris outside a coffee shop. He spotted me and said, "Hey, house thief." I laughed. "Wrong guy. I just repossessed it." He smiled. "Mark's probably still complaining." "Let him," I said. He gave me the best revenge story I'll ever have. I didn't tell Harris that I'd already started drafting it. Not for court this time, but for me. Maybe I'd post it anonymously one day. Maybe I'd keep it tucked away as a reminder. Or maybe I'd do what Mark never could, move on. Because unlike him, I didn't build my life on lies.